Here is a governance reality that catches many organizations off guard. The AI system you bought from a vendor, or the foundation model you are accessing via API, or the cloud platform your AI runs on, those are all inside your AI governance perimeter. Not the vendor's perimeter, yours. Because when that AI system causes harm, your customers come to you, regulators come to you, and you need to be able to demonstrate that you governed it. This episode is about building the supply chain governance layer of your aims. We cover how to map your AI supply chain, how to assess and monitor vendors, what contractual protections you need, and how ISO 42001 Annex A.9 controls operationalize these requirements. The principle is simple. You cannot outsource accountability. Let's build the framework to live by that principle. Think about the AI supply chain that sits behind a typical enterprise AI deployment. You have a foundation model from a major AI lab. You have a cloud provider hosting the compute. You have a data annotation vendor who labeled your training data. You have an MLOps platform managing your model lifecycle. And you have a third-party API providing enrichment data that feeds your model. That is 5 suppliers before you have written a single line of your own code. Each of those suppliers is a potential source of AI governance risk. The foundation model may have been trained on data with bias issues you did not know about. The cloud provider may process your data in jurisdictions with different legal frameworks. The annotation vendor may have quality issues that affect your training data. Each of those risks flows upstream to your AI system and ultimately to the decisions your AI makes about your customers. Supply chain attacks on AI are also a growing security threat. Model poisoning, where a malicious actor tampers with training data or model weights to introduce backdoors, is a documented attack vector. Compromised AP is that returns subtly manipulated outputs. Counterfeit models distributed through open source repositories. ISO 42001 Annex A.9 requires you to actively manage these risks, not assume that because you did not build the problem, you do not own it. The Annex A.9 controls define a structured approach to third-party risk management that starts before you sign a contract and continues throughout the supplier relationship. Let me walk through the process. Before engagement, you conduct a vendor assessment, a structured evaluation of the supplier's AI governance posture. This covers: do they have an AI governance framework? What are their data handling practices? Have they been certified against ISO 27001 or ISO 42001? What is their incident history? What are their bias testing and fairness practices for AI systems? This is not a questionnaire you send and file. It is a risk assessment that informs your procurement decision. During contract negotiation, you include AI-specific clauses, and I will cover those in a moment. After contract execution, you monitor continuously, not just at the next annual review. Supplier certifications lapse, personnel change, sub-processors are added without notice, governance quality drifts. Ongoing monitoring is what catches these changes before they become incidents. You cannot govern what you cannot see. Supply chain mapping is the foundational activity that makes all of your Annex A.9 controls effective. Your supply chain map should identify every organization that has a role in your AI system's operation, directly or indirectly. Direct suppliers, the vendors you have contracts with. Indirect suppliers, sub-processors and sub-vendors your suppliers use, are frequently overlooked but equally important. If your cloud AI platform uses a third-party data center or your foundation model provider uses a data annotation firm, those organizations are in your supply chain even if you have no direct relationship with them. Classify your suppliers by risk. High risk. Suppliers whose failure or compromise would directly affect your AI system's governance, performance, or legal compliance. Medium risk. Suppliers providing supporting services where alternatives are available. Low risk. Commodity suppliers with minimal AI governance implications. Your monitoring intensity and assessment frequency should match the risk classification. High-risk suppliers get annual reassessments, audit rights exercised, and more frequent performance reviews. Annex A.9 control sets specific requirements for how you manage AI suppliers. A.9.1 requires a documented risk evaluation for each AI vendor before engagement. A.9.2 requires a formal supply chain risk management program, not individual vendor assessments conducted in isolation, but a coordinated program that gives you a portfolio view of supply chain risk. A.9.3 specifically addresses AI as a service providers, the increasingly common model where AI capability is consumed via API and requires controls appropriate to the risks of that consumption model. What should you require of your high-risk AI suppliers? At minimum, evidence of an Information Security Management System (ISO) 27001 certification or equivalent. For AI-specific governance, documentation of their AI system cards, their bias testing practices, and their incident notification processes. Audit rights, the contractual right to audit the supplier or receive third-party audit reports. And notification obligations. The supplier must inform you promptly of material changes to their AI systems that could affect your use of them. One area that consistently creates problems: open source models and public APIs used without any vendor assessment process. Just because a model is free does not mean it is outside your governance perimeter. If your organization uses a publicly available open source model in a production AI system, that model's governance characteristics are your responsibility to assess, document, and manage. Cloud AI and AI as a service present a specific governance challenge: the shared responsibility model. Cloud providers share responsibility for the security of the infrastructure. AI providers share responsibility for the model's stated performance. But the governance responsibility for how you use those services, what data you send, what decisions you automate, what oversight you apply, is entirely yours. This means your governance controls must extend to the API boundary. When you call a third-party AI API with personal data, you are responsible for having a lawful basis for that data transfer, for documenting the processing, for assessing the risk of the output being used in a decision, and for ensuring your use of the API complies with the provider's terms and your own AI policy. Service-level agreements for AI services need AI-specific terms, not just availability and performance metrics. What is the notification SLA for significant model changes? What happens to your data if the service is discontinued? What are the data retention and deletion commitments? What security standards does the provider commit to? Standard SaaS SLAs rarely cover these questions adequately. You need to negotiate them explicitly. A well-structured AI vendor contract is one of the most effective governance controls in your supply chain toolkit. Let me give you the essential clauses that your legal team should be including in every significant AI vendor agreement. AI policy compliance. The vendor commits to operating within your AI use policy and notifying you if their capabilities or practices change in ways that would create a conflict. Data handling and privacy. Explicit commitments on what data the vendor processes, for what purpose, where it is stored, how it is protected, and how it is deleted at contract termination. Incident notification, a contractual obligation for the vendor to notify you within a defined SLA, typically 24 to 72 hours, of any AI-related incident affecting your use of their service. Audit rights, the right to conduct or commission an audit of the vendor's AI governance practices or to receive the results of a third-party audit at your request. Model change notification. For AI as a service providers, a commitment to notify you of material changes to underlying models before those changes are deployed, not after. This is critical Because model changes can affect your compliance with AI impact assessments that were conducted on a previous model version. Exit provisions, data portability and deletion commitments, transition support, and a defined wind-down process that does not leave you dependent on a vendor who is terminating the relationship. Let's close this video where good governance always returns, to the idea that the work never truly stops. Signing the contract is the beginning, not the end. So for your high-risk AI suppliers, conduct a reassessment at least annually. The world changes and so do your vendors. Next, track their certifications. Those ISO 27001 and SOC 2 credentials come up for renewal, and a lapsed certification is a genuine risk signal. If a vendor lets one expire, ask why. Then, run performance reviews. Look at their SLA compliance, their incident history, their overall governance posture. Patterns tell you a lot. A vendor with rising incidents is heading somewhere you don't want to follow. And finally, have an escalation process ready. When a vendor fails their obligations, you need a clear path to engage legal or procurement, not a scramble to figure out who to call. Here's the takeaway for the whole video. Your suppliers are part of your AI system, even if you didn't build them. Govern them like it.